एक इदारा है माइक्रोसॉफ्ट जिसके नाम से हम सब वाकिफ़ हैं। अब ये इदारा जो है, वैसे तो ये सॉफ्टवेयर का इदारा है, टेक्नोलॉजी का इदारा है और हम सब इसकी प्रोडक्ट्स इस्तेमाल कर रहे होते हैं। लेकिन वो जो एक मुहावरा है ना, जिसको कहते हैं कि जी हाथी के दांत दिखाने के कुछ और होते हैं और खाने के कुछ और होते हैं, तो बिल गेट्स का मामला भी कुछ ऐसा ही लगता है। और वैसे तो बिल गेट्स की इसकी इंसानियत के लिए की जाने वाली जो कोशिशें हैं वो हम सब जानते हैं। और सबसे अहम जो कोशिश है उनकी वो है पोलियो से बचाने के लिए उनकी सारी खिदमात और सारा जो उनका कैंपेन है। एक पोलियो से बचाने का मतलब है कि आप किसी की ज़िंदगी को अपाहज होने से बचा रहे हैं, लेकिन दूसरी तरफ माइक्रोसॉफ्ट जो है वो इंसानियत के कत्ल में भी मुलव्विस है। माइक्रोसॉफ्ट एज्योर ये इजराइल को क्लाउड सर्विसेज फराहम करने वाला अहम तरीन इदारा है। ये इदारा इसराइल को जंग के लिए अपनी घिनौनी खिदमात फ़रोख्त करता है, जबकि माइक्रोसॉफ्ट के अलावा अमेज़ॉन और गूगल भी फ़लस्तीनियों के वसी कत्लेआम के लिए मुख्तलिफ़ किस्म की टेक्नोलॉजीज़ फराहम करने में बड़ा किरदार अदा करते हैं। गुज़िश्ता साल माइक्रोसॉफ्ट के कुछ मुलाजमीन ने नो एज्योर फॉर एपार्थाइड के नाम से एक इत्तेहाद बनाया और माइक्रोसॉफ्ट की जो क्लाउड कंप्यूटिंग टेक्नोलॉजी है वो इसराइली हुकूमत को फ़रोख्त करने की मुखालिफत की। इस सिलसिले में फ़लस्तीनियों के साथ इज़हार यकजहती के लिए शमें जलाई गईं। माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने मज़लूमों से महज इज़हार यकजहती करने पर अपने ही मुलाजमीन को फारिग कर दिया। और इनमें दो मुलाजमीन थे, एक का नाम था अब्दू मोहम्मद और दूसरे का नाम था हुसाम नसर। और आज हम आपकी मुलाकात करवाते हैं हुसाम नसर से। माइक्रोसॉफ्ट से निकाल दिया गया था, उनकी नौकरी ख़त्म कर दी गई थी और वजह सिर्फ ये थी कि वो फ़लस्तीनियों के हक़ में आवाज़ उठा रहे थे। हुसाम नसर हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं। अस्सलाम वालेकुम हुसाम, एंड थैंक यू फॉर गिविंग अस योर टाइम फॉर द शो।
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Hussam, let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us what exactly were you doing at Microsoft? What were your job responsibilities, and what did you witness while working over there?
Yeah, so I was a software engineer. I was working 2 years on Microsoft Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud services, and then I switched to working on VS Code, which was the code editor that's very popular. It's owned by Microsoft. So that was my job. I spent 3 years there before I was fired. And just to answer your question, what did I witness there? To be honest, I witnessed rampant anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, and Islamophobic sentiment throughout my time there, and it actually goes back to before the start of the genocide in Gaza. For example, in May of 2022, I asked a question about the double standard of Microsoft's support for Ukraine and boycotting Russia because of the invasion of Ukraine. And I asked about multiple other scenarios where Microsoft didn't take such measures and didn't uphold its commitment to human rights, including the Uyghur Muslims in China, including Yemen, Syria, Iraq. And I also mentioned the example in Palestine. And even asking that question led me to be investigated by HR for 2 hours,
Okay.
where I was grilled by an Israeli woman about my political views about Palestine, and I was asked questions such as, "Are you aware that Palestinians are actually thriving in Israel?" I was gaslit about the apartheid conditions in Israel and stuff like that. And even though nothing came of that particular investigation, that set the tone for the rest of my time there, where any mention of Palestine and any mention that Palestinians are human beings who deserve rights, and that Microsoft as a company shouldn't be complicit in human rights abuses against them, was not going to be acceptable. And that intensified after October 7 and after the start of the genocide, where communities were shut down, questions were being censored, HR investigations were being weaponized. I personally witnessed how simply saying that Palestinians deserve freedom, liberation, and dignity from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea led to financial sanctions, led to payment deductions, bonus was taken away, and all of that while anti-Arab and anti-Palestinian rhetoric was allowed to exist with impunity on company platform, and was actually encouraged by company leadership when they came out in October 7 and said, "We stand with Israel." They completely failed to mention Palestinians and completely refused to comment on the matter afterwards. Meanwhile, they're essentially supplying digital weapons to the Israeli military to kill, maim, and displace Palestinians.
Okay, so you mentioned that it was an anti-Arab and anti-Palestinian environment over there. Can you quote some specific examples of what you saw?
Yeah, absolutely. So to give you one example, I personally, I asked a question or I posted a comment within a company like social media platform where employees can talk with each other, and that comment said, and I'm quote, "With or without your sympathy, Palestinians will attain the dignity, the freedom, the liberation, and the respect that they deserve everywhere from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea." That comment led to a 3 months HR investigation where I was again I asked repeatedly, was told repeatedly that saying from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea was anti-Semitic and implied a desire for Jewish genocide, and eventually led to 5 different sanctions against me, which were the toughest sanctions they could put, short of termination. It included being banned from the platform for 6 months. It included not being able to be promoted for a year. It included having my salary increase, my bonus, and my stock awards for the year all be zeros. It included a mark on my performance review, and all of this was because I said this comment. Meanwhile, I reported 23 names by people who posted on the same platform saying things like Israel, like from the river to the sea, Israel will forever be, and also calling me anti-Semitic and calling me and no one who simply hates Jews, and not a single person from the ones that I reported were found to be in violation of the same policy that I was found to be in violation of. That's one example. Another example is when shortly after October 7, they put forward new rules for employee networks to be able to host events, which included, believe it or not, a ban on educational events. And that I witnessed how my friend, a Palestinian employee at Microsoft, was prevented for months from talking about her family and talking about her personal life during a regularly scheduled employee spotlight series. Because when talking about her family, she was talking about the Nakba and the displacement of her family in 1948 into Lebanon, and that was seen as educational and therefore was banned under that new rule that they invented. The most recent example that I saw is when, No Azure for Apartheid, the group that I'm a part of, the employee-led group of Microsoft employees that are demanding the end of Microsoft's complicity in Israel's apartheid and genocide regime. Our petition and our website were taken down unilaterally without providing an explanation. And when we pointed to other examples of employee-led petitions that were also allowed to exist on the company platform, they simply dismissed our concerns, and they didn't provide an explanation for why ours were somehow different. So there was these are just some examples, but overall there was a pattern of weaponizing existing policies, selectively applying policies, or in some cases, like the educational thing, completely inventing new policies, all with the aim of silencing, repressing, and discriminating against Palestinian voices and voices of conscience in the company.